Don't just live for tomorrow, or just live in yesterday. Just be glad for all you have that's in today. And though you've come through many obstacles.
Hey everyone, Connie here, and welcome to my blind reaction to RWBY Fairy Tales, episodes 1 and 2. So, this is going to be something that it's not like it's a series, but it's not like an actual full series, because the episodes are like 5 to 10 minutes long each. Approximate. At least these first two episodes are in that range. And it's so I'm not really counting it as a series reaction. It's just whenever I get to it, I get to it. So what this is it's a spin-off of RWBY, kind of in the vein of the I don't remember what it's called, Tales of Remnant or whatever it was called. That series of like little shorts that was like, oh, this is like a little bit of history about this and so on and so forth. And it was not good because it's like, this is information that's like either we already knew for the most part based on just watching the series, or was stuff that just should have been in the series and had plenty of opportunity to be so. And so it was kind of a waste of time and wasn't well done even. So this series is, I guess, giving us, well, some of the fairy tales of Remnant. We've seen and heard about the fairy tales of Remnant in the main series itself, pretty much ever since Ozpin brought them up to Pyrrha. And so the fairy tales have been an ongoing thing, and I don't know if we're going to see any of those in here, but these are just going to be different fairy tales within the world. I don't know what the point of this is, just extra RWBY content, I guess. But yeah, so both of these first two episodes are out on YouTube. So unlike with RWBY, I feel like I don't have to, unlike with the main series, I feel like I don't have to wait a week to get them up because they're both available publicly on YouTube. So I'm counting it for that. And I put this off a little bit, like instead of reacting to this like right when episode 1 came out, I put this off a little bit because of the last volume of RWBY and how that left off. Yeah, you guys know, I feel like you guys know that I was not a fan of how that ended. There were just, it was mainly the Penny thing, but there were some other issues I had too. But that was so jarringly bad in terms of writing and character, just, again, character writing, that it actually really upset me to the point of I really kind of stopped doing anything involved with RWBY for quite a while. I haven't even watched anyone's reactions to anything RWBY related since, outside of maybe one or two little things. I haven't really wanted to do anything involving any of the games. I haven't checked out any, even fan art really, for the most part. I mean, there's some fan art that I managed to see that I just happened to come across, but I haven't actively looked much of anything up. It's like it really upset me that much. It was that bad. And I think part of the reason is because Penny had become one of my favorite characters, and then they just fucked everything up and just completely ruined her character in one fell swoop. But we're not gonna talk about that here. I could talk about that forever, and this is not really the exact time and place. So I don't know much of anything going into this. I don't know what these first two episodes are about. I don't know what to expect going into this, because it's just like, it's just a bunch of fictional fairy tales that exist in the world of Remnant that Rooster Teeth made up as it is. Okay. I mean, I'm sure they'll involve Grimm and stuff, and maybe some of them will be even comparable to real life fairy tales that exist, but it's like RWBY in and of itself is kind of a fairy tale, so it's like what is the point of this? Of having a series of just like 5 to 10 minute episodes of just these short little fairy tale stories, and it's like within this world, and it's just like I don't get it. So we'll check out these first 2 episodes. I don't know if I'll get to episode 3 right when it comes out or not, or if I'll just do episodes 3 and 4 together or whatever. I don't know. We'll kind of be on a as it happens basis. So for the meantime, since I don't know anything really going into this, we're just going to get started and see what this is all about. So when the screen fades to black, pause this redirect and go to the description below. Follow the link to the reaction, and after you watch it, come back here to the redirect and resume play. Because after it fades to black and then fades back in, everything from that point forward will be my afterthoughts and will contain spoilers to the episodes. So that being said, thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you at the reaction. And we are back, and we'll begin with spoilers in 3, 2, 1, now. So, yeah, it's exactly like it says in the title. They're just some fairy tales narrated by Ozpin. Very short. They all have like a message to them. They're done in a different style than the main series, which is a little interesting, but I don't fully see the point of these. It's still like, okay, it doesn't add anything, I feel, to the main series. It doesn't do anything important. It's not even like it's not even like interesting enough to be something that's like in the vein of the What If series with the MCU. It's not even in the vein of that, where like that was at least so interesting that it kept your attention the entire time, and that was these exciting stories, the sun, these exciting possibilities that still fit in with what was going on currently in the MCU with the multiverse happening and everything. This is just like, it's completely unconnected. And honestly, if it weren't for the Grimm in the second episode of this, there's really no connection to RWBY even. The Grimm in this in the second episode was the only thing in this that made it anything RWBY like at all. Everything else was so just, I guess you could say, generic, that it just felt like it could be anything, just a random like series of short fairy tale like stories. And so it's like almost kind of weird that this seems to be very just random and unimportant. But let's talk about each of these 2 episodes just as they are. So I'm actually going to get to the first episode second, because I think it was the better one, and I'll talk about why when I get to that. But let's start off with episode 2, which I think was the weaker one. Episode 2 is as generic as you can get with like a fairy tale with a message. It's okay, so there's this hunter. He hunts the Grimm, which is apparently, I guess, unheard of at the time, because they made it seem like it was this big deal, like it was a surprise or something that he would do that. But he hunts the Grimm, and one day he didn't come back from his hunt. His kids, distraught by his death and afraid and unsure of what to do next, argue and fight and split up because they can't agree on just what to do going forward. They all have these different ideas, all linked to their semblances and whatnot, and they're just trying to kind of figure it out, basically. So they all go their separate ways, and nothing's working out. Nothing is really going their way. So they end up having to come together again and work as a team. And I guess it's sort of like the fairy tale in this world about how the teams at the academies started and everything. It seems to be connected to that in some way. Because even the ending, like it showed them with the colored backgrounds and everything, like you expect from like Team RWBY or Juniper. So it's like, I think that's kind of what that's going for. The only thing is, it's kind of boring. Like the events we're seeing and the stuff they're doing with it aren't interesting. The characters aren't interesting. They're just kind of, because it's so short, because there's not a lot of time to give to these characters and everything. They're just these one-off, one-episode characters that there's. It doesn't give you enough time to actually care about them here. Unlike in the first episode, which actually, since there's less characters to focus on, it actually does it better. But there's like, you have 4 different characters here, and they're all going their separate ways, doing their own things, and it's like, there's just too much to grasp onto in too little of amount of time. And again, they're just not interesting characters. They're not entertaining, really. Their semblances are kind of interesting a little bit, but that's about it. They don't do anything interesting with them either. They're just kind of doing generic huntsman things. It's so by the numbers and bland that it's just, I don't really care about it. So let's talk about the first episode, the one that was better. Because I want to end this video off talking about something that was on the more positive side. The first episode is about this girl named Poppy, who seems to kind of be rebelling against the village's warnings about this forest right outside the village. They're told not to go in the forest, it's dangerous and everything, but she's rebelling against it, and she's like, just, oh, look, it's probably not that bad. And so she goes into the forest, she sees some stuff, like some really dangerous, evil looking shit coming towards her, but she just runs out, and it's like, oh, it's okay. And then she forces her very clearly anxious and nervous younger brother into the forest to do the same. Even threatening to no longer be friends with him, and noting how it's not quite the same thing as just being obligated to be siblings and all. So she forces him in, and then later on that night, like, he hasn't come out yet, so she goes in to try to find him, and finds his body, like, pale, cold, with, like, Salem-like veins over the skin, and it's like, it very much reminded me of Sam, and it's very creepy. She gets him out of there and brings him home, but that night it seems like he goes out and starts infecting other people, and then the other people start infecting others, and eventually she gets infected as well after freaking out over everything and understanding and realizing what she did was wrong. But she does get infected too. And in the end, it's just the village is lost. Everyone in it is infected and, like, practically zombie-like. And just, it's not a happy ending. And I like that. But it also kind of gives a contrast to the second episode, which is a very almost triumphant, happy episode outside of the father dying. It's a lot more triumphant and happy with, like, the family coming together. They learn to work as a team, and it's all about, like, companionship and teamwork and all of that jazz. And it's like, it's very lighthearted. The first one ends off on a very dark note with our characters, well, basically dying, practically. From a practical sense, they're dead in a way. And the lesson of this one is basically, it's basically a biblical lesson if you think about it. There's a lesson in the Bible, a parable of like, don't, I'm trying to remember exactly how it's worded. Don't focus your attention on the on the splinter in your neighbor's eye while ignoring the log in your own. It basically, the idea is, don't look at someone else's faults, don't like judge others and everything while ignoring your own faults. We see in this that Poppy very much was judging and like being mean towards her younger brother for being scared and being cautious about going into this forest. And again, I apologize for the light. It's peeking through the trees, and it's just like wrong time, wrong place. But she's like really like being mean and judgmental of her brother, and even saying that she'll no longer be close to him, all because of his fear and everything. And she's refusing to look at her own faults on how terrible she's being towards him. And in the end, she doesn't even realize like she's been infected at first. That's clearly what that was telling us, that she had been infected for at least a little bit, at least when that darkness overtook her, like during that part, that was probably her being infected. But there was a little bit after that where we saw her still going, and it's like we assumed she wasn't, but I think she was. I think that's the point. I think she just didn't realize she had been infected yet. So when she realized, and when she saw herself in the reflection, it's like it was kind of this poignant reminder that it's like you need to take a step back and recognize your own faults before just judging and picking on others for theirs. Because if you ignore everything happening, everything that you're doing, while only focusing on the others, it's not going to end well for you. Which, for her, it doesn't. Again, it's a very dark ending. She and her brother, everyone in the village is lost. They're practically dead. It's not good. So, I actually really like that one, because maybe it's a morbid side to me, but I kind of like darker stories like that, where it gets like, where it's really bleak in the end and everything. They're more entertaining and more interesting to me than just the typical generic happy ending kind of story. Jesus. I really apologize for the sun. It's just, again, wrong place, wrong time. But yeah, it's more interesting and more fun and more thought-provoking even. I'm gonna just say it here though, like, this does not seem to be something that I need to react to. I guess you could say this was a first impressions video in a way, for this series, kind of unintentionally. I don't think I need to react to this. I don't think there's really any value in doing so. Like, I was going to initially, as I mentioned in the pre-thoughts, I was going to just do these whenever I got to them, because they're only, like, again, 5 to 10 minutes long. But I think I'm just going to watch them on my own time. Because even if we get more episodes that are more like the first one here, that are very interesting and dark and really well done like that, it's like, I still don't think that they have much of anything to add. And honestly, I would rather put forth that time into recording my reactions for other things, you know? So I think that's going to be the best move here. I think it's best to just kind of watch this on my own time, and maybe I might mention some stuff about it in the Discord or something like that if I really feel like there's something to talk about. But I think this is just going to be one of those things that it's just whenever I get to it on my own schedule. I don't need to react to everything, you know? And this is definitely something I don't feel a need to at all, and I just feel like it would be kind of a waste of time. Even though they're so short, I don't feel like it's necessary. So, I guess this, again, was kind of like an unintentional first impressions video. So tell me in the comments below, what did you think of these first couple episodes of RWBY Fairy Tales? And let me know just what you think like this series could kind of potentially be in the future. For now, though, yeah, nothing else to say. So I'm Connie, and I'm signing off. See y'all next time.